The mood at home was about to explode. Arriving from her mother's birthday celebration, the woman came across a furious husband. "What the hell were you doing in restaurants while my mother lives in a shed in the countryside?" He attacked her with this question, although he had refused to go to the party, alleging deep hatred for his mother-in-law. That unfair accusation and the blatant hypocrisy were the drop of water. Good night, dear listeners. It is a pleasure to receive them once again here. Today I bring a story that will mess with your emotions. Prepare to reflect. The sun shone that morning, but Galina's heart Alexeyevna weighed like lead. He turned 58, an age when the parties no longer have the same brightness, especially when his daughter's relationship with her husband is crumbling. Ludmila, her only daughter, had promised to appear later. "Of course I'm going, Mom. But Igor, again, doesn't want to go." Galina sighed, remembering the connection from the night before. In 5 years of marriage, she had never been able to establish a dialogue with the son-in-law. Igor Chashchin was a man of explosive, authoritarian, irritated, and obsessed with control, especially about Ludmila. With care, Galina packed the table in her modest 2-room apartment on the periphery. Nothing extravagant, salads, a cabbage cake like Ludmila loved it since childhood, and a bottle of half-sweet sparkling wine. There were no guests beyond the daughter and 2 work friends. At both in point, the doorbell rang. Ludmila was there, with a bouquet of chrysanthemums and a small box wrapped on satin ribbon. "Congratulations, Mom," he said, hugging her carefully not to need the flowers. Galina smiled, radiant, moving away to let her in. "Bet in, my love." "And Igor?" Ludmila responded fast, looking away. "You couldn't. Urgent commitments at work." Both knew it was a lie. Igor just didn't want to go. "I hate your mother," he spat in the morning, without disguising the disgust. Ludmila almost replied, "She's not my mother-in-law, and you're an adult," but swallowed the words. Arguing with him had become useless. Galina took the flowers to the kitchen in search of a vase. "Don't worry. The girls are already on their way." The day surprisingly went well. Galina's friends were cheerful women, told funny work stories, and revived youth memories. Ludmila, for the first time in months, felt the weight on her back relieves. He really laughed, something he hadn't done for a long time. Meanwhile, Igor had his own plans for the night. He decided to visit his mother, Ekaterina Borisovna, who lived in a village 40 kilometers from the city. These visits had become increasingly rare: work, chores, eternal exhaustion. But that night, with his absent wife, he decided to visit. Ekaterina received her son with a joy that could not hide. Simple woman in the countryside, had spent her life working hard on a local farm. Now, retired, kept a small garden, some chickens, and 2 apple trees in the backyard. "Igorzinho, my son," he exclaimed, agitated as he watched the house with a critical look. Old furniture, peeled walls, ranging floor. In the corner, a bucket collecting the drops that fell from the ceiling. "Mom, the roof is leaking again?" he asked, frowning. "Oh, it's nothing, son. I got used to it," she replied, as if it were normal. The neighbor, Petrovich, had promised to help, but never got time. Igor cleaned his lips. He sent money every month, but clearly not enough. With his medium manager salary, he could barely pay the mortgage, the car, and the constant requirements of Ludmila, or at least that's what he thought. "Is the bathtub working?" he asked as he tasted the soup. "What a bathtub, son?" answered Ekaterina with a sad smile. "I rotated a long time ago. I put a fire in the shed and wash myself there." Igor almost choked. "No ba. Rakin. Don't worry so much," he tried to calm him down. "I did the best I could to isolate. At least it's mine, I don't need to leave the house." That revelation was like a punch in the stomach. His own mother, meat of his meat, washed in a shed, while the mother-in-law lived comfortably in an apartment with a bathroom in the city. And Ludmila on top of it spent money with monthly gifts, taxes, and monthly visits. The thought consumed her all night. "You won't continue like this." Ludmila arrived home around 9, tired but pleased. The day was wonderful, full of human warmth. He even brought a piece of his mother's cake to Igor, knowing that, despite all the hard words, He loved his mother-in-law's dessert. But what awaited her was a husband with cross arms, his face a stone mask. "Did you have fun?" he asked, cold. "Hi," said Ludmilla, cautiously, taking off her shoes. "How was your day?" "Great," ironized Igor. "I went to see my mother." "Did you know where she takes a shower?" "In a shed." "In a damn shed, with a makeshift bonfire." Ludmilla froze, not understanding where he wanted to go. "This is bad, of course," he said, trying to be diplomatic. "Maybe we can help fix the bathroom?" "Help!" exploded Igor. "What the hell were you doing in restaurants while my mother washes into a shed?" Ludmilla blinked confused. "Restaurants? What are you talking about?" "I was at my mother's house on her birthday. We stayed there all day." "No matter where you were," shouted Igor, without letting her end. "You drink sparkling, laughing, while my mother warms water in a bucket. My mother, who raised me, who spent her life working until the bones hurt." Ludmilla backed up instinctively, leaning against the wall. "I already suggested that she live with us," he murmured. "You vetoed yourself, because your mother was going to come here all the time," he said. "I have my own family. I am the one who I send in this house." Those words lighting something in Ludmilla. 5 years holding humiliation, obsessive control and constant criticism. 5 years trying to be the perfect wife, shaping his whims. But when he insulted his mother, something inside her broke. "Do you know something?" he said, low, but firm, staring at him. "I suggest you go to live with your mother. If her situation bothers you so much, go take care of her. Because I can't take your crises anymore here." Igor was gaping. For the first time, the wife had dared to challenge him, and with that firmness. "What?" he whispered, taking a step ahead. "I said it arrives," repeated Ludmilla, without blinking. "Either you control yourself and to this theater, or you can get your things." Igor began to threaten, but stopped. There was something in her gaze that never saw before, a cold, unbreakable determination. "What are you going to do?" asked Ludmilla. "Calm down. Beat me? Expel me? By the way, this apartment is mine, inherited from my grandmother before our wedding. So if anyone goes out, I will not be me." Igor suffocated with anger. That humiliation was too much to endure. "Ah, is it?" he growled, his voice shaking with fury. He sat on the edge of the bed, his fingers shaking on the phone screen. The heart beat so hard that it seemed to want to break the ribs. Force coverage zone, he thought, trying again. Nothing. The signal remained non-existent, as if the universe conspired to postpone the moment he feared so much and at the same time wanted. Igor threw the phone on the bed and ran his hands on his face, feeling his shaving to scratch his palms. What a irony. He had spent a week drowning in manual work, as if he could compensate for years of negligence with hammers and nails, and now, when he finally decided to face what really mattered, even technology betrayed him. Or was it fate, giving you one more push to reflect? He left the room and found his mother in the kitchen, frying eggs in a beaten pan. The smell of newly shock coffee was mixed with the aroma of roasted bread, a combination that, in other times, calmed him. Now, however, every detail of that scenario, the peeled walls that he has not had time to repaint yet, the wall clock stopped at the same time for years, the patched tablecloth shouted everything he had ignored for so long. "Couldn't talk to her?" asked Chair, without turning around, as if he read his thoughts. Igor sat at the table, the elbows resting on the knees, the curved posture as if carrying an invisible weight. "The signal here is shit," he grunted more to himself than for his mother. She slid a plate in front of her, with a gesture that was both firm and affectionate. "Or you're looking for excuses not to call," he said dryly as he sat in front of you. "Fear is a treacherous thing. He hides behind anger, pride, even occupation. But deep down, you know, it's not the sign that prevents you. It's yourself." Igor held the fork, but did not take it to his mouth. The mother's words hit him like a punch in the stomach. She is right. It has always been. Since he had arrived there, a week earlier, she was watching him with that penetrating look, which he saw beyond the excuses, beyond the stubbornness layers he had built over the years. "What if she doesn't want to hear me?" he finally murmured, his voice hoarse. After all I said, after how I treated her. ESM Demouch extended its hand over the table and covered its nominated and hot fingers marked by decades of work. Then you will try again. And again. Until she understands that you have changed. Or until you understand that you don't deserve it back, he said bluntly. But one thing I tell you, son, a woman like Ludmilla is not for any man. She has a spine. And if you lost her, it was no coincidence. It was because he thought he could step on her impunity. The silence that followed was heavy. Igor looked at his own hands, now dirty with ink and callus, and thought of how the same hands, who fixed roofs and raised walls, had been used to push Ludmilla away. To hurt her. To humiliate her. Suddenly the cell phone on the table vibrated. Both startled. It was a message. Not from Ludmilla, but from the boss. Igor, we need to talk. Your post is at risk if you don't come back tomorrow. Last warning. He should feel panic. Or at least urgency. But all he felt was a strange relief, as if that message were the perfect excuse for postponing the inevitable. I could use it. I would tell yourself that I needed to go back, that the job came first, that... No, he said aloud, surprising himself. The mother raised an eyebrow. Not what? I won't use it as an escape, he explained, typing a short and objective answer. I resign. Thanks for the opportunity. He sent before the doubt paralyzed him. ESM Demambian said nothing, but his eyes shone with something that could be proud. Or hope. Igor got up, determining. He took the coat hanging behind the door and the keys of the car borrowed from the neighbor. I go to the city. I need a decent signal. She just nodded, but when he was already at the door, he called him. He turned. If she forgives you, don't spoil again, said, her voice firm, but with an almost imperceptible tremor. And if you don't forgive, learn from it. For a man who does not learn from his mistakes is condemned to repeat them. Igor swallowed hard. It promised nothing. There were no promises that could erase the past. But for the first time in a long time, he felt something that was not anger or self-pity. It was fear. Fear of losing Ludmilla forever. And it was exactly that fear that finally made him act. Gathered his few things and said to his mother, with a voice that did not hide the determination, Mother, I go to the city. I need to talk to Ludmilla. Ekaterina Borisovna just nodded, but her eyes, those who always saw beyond words, shone with a mixture of hope and caution. Go, son. And remember, love without respect does not survive. It's like a plant without water, slowly withered until one day you look and only the dust remains. Igor's heart was so strong against his ribs that he thought he was going to hear the echo in his chest when he stopped in front of their house. The hands were sweating on the wheel, his fingers shaking by squeezing the bell. Once. Two. In the third, the door opened. Ludmilla was there on the threshold between the past and something that could still be future. Skinny, with deep dark circles that had sleepless nights, but still so beautiful that it hurt. It hurt like a punch in the stomach, because he recognized, for the first time in years, what had almost destroyed, she. Not the woman who challenged, not the enemy who blamed for everything, but Ludmilla, the same one who laughed with her eyes, who seared dreams on the pillow, who had chosen Fikgo beside her even when he didn't deserve it. Just a name escaped from your lips, hoarse as if swallowed glass, Luda. She looked at him, surprised, but without hostility. Just a silent question hanging in the air between them. What are you doing here? I turned, he admitted, and the word sounded like a surrender. Can I come in? We need to talk. Ludmilla hesitated. Time stretched itself elastic until it retreated a step, opening passage. Enter. They sat in the kitchen, separated by the abyss of a table that had already seen laughter, fights and heavy silences like lead. He at the end on one side, she, in the other, two strangers with too much stories to ignore. I was wrong, Igor's ice broke, finally. In everything. You didn't deserve those words. Neither you nor your mother. Ludmilla raised her eyes, tired, but attentive. Why did you come back, Igor? Did you get bored in the village? No, he denied his head, and for the first time in years, there was no excuses ready, just the naked truth. I came back because I understood that without you there is no way. And because I realized that I am responsible for everything that went wrong. Not you. Not your mother. I. She studied him in silence, as if he sought cracking in the armor of his words. Did you fix your mother's house? He finally asked, as if testing his sincerity with something concrete. This. He nodded. New roof, the rebuilt sauna, a shower installed, everything you should have done for years. I'm glad Ekaterina Borisovna, said Ludmila, but her fingers played with the edge of the cup, betraying the tension. But that's not why it's here. Not this. Igor leaned forward, the elbows resting on the table, as if he could shorten the distance between them with the posture. It's because I understood that I can't blame the world for my life. Not for you. Not for anyone. I should be careful of my mother. I should be careful of our marriage. Instead, I only accused. He paused, taking a deep breath. Ludmila watched him, and there was something in his gaze, an open crack, a possibility. I don't ask you to forgive me now, he continued, the lowest voice. I just ask for a chance. To fix. To go home. For you. The silence that followed was long. Too long. Until she said, so low that he hardly heard, I don't know, Igor. I need to think. I wonder, he accepted, without pressing. How long do you need? I don't know. Maybe days. Maybe a week. I'll be waiting, he promised. Meanwhile, I stay at the mother's house. There are still details to finish there. Ludmila lowered her eyes, but then unexpectedly, how is she? Well, he smiled, and it was a real smile. He sent memories. He said he misses him. I feel too, Ludmila confessed, and for the first time, something in her tone softened. She is a good woman. Unlike. He silent, but Igor completed the sentence on his head, unlike her son. What else? Said Ludmila suddenly, as if the idea had just been born. Let's visit her. I want to see her. And I want to see this repair you did. Igor didn't believe it. Now. Why not? He shrugged. I have nothing better to do. And I can decide there too. An hour later, they were on the bus to Sosnovka. Sitting side by side, without touching, but with a space between them that no longer looked like an abyss. It looked, a bridge being built. Ekaterina Borisovna received them with a hug that spoke 1,000 words. Ludochka, my daughter, finally. He applied her daughter-in-law like her blood, and Igor, watching the scene, felt something rearrange inside him, something that had been broken for a long time. They spent the day together. Ludmila helped Ekaterina in the kitchen, admiring the repair Igor had done, listening to the village gossip while the sun was over the fields. At night, they sat on the porch, the hot tea between their hands, the stars flashing like a fresh speech witnesses. Your father and I used to do that, said Ekaterina, with a sigh. He always talked about aging like this, with his grandchildren around. Mom, Igor interrupted, soft. Why don't you come to live with us in the city? We got a room for you. It makes no sense to be alone here. Ludmila looked at him, surprised, but nodded in support. Ekaterina, however, laughed, waving his hands. Ah, son, where he has seen. My life is here, my chickens, my garden. But winter is hard, Igor insisted. What if we do differently? Suggested Ludmila unexpectedly. We saw every weekend. And in winter, you stay with us in the colder months. Ekaterina's face illuminated. Yes, so I am quieter. And I don't need to worry about you two alone. Igor and Ludmila exchanged a look. In her eyes, he saw something that made his heart fire, hope. Or maybe forgiveness. Or dared to think love. That night, lying on Igor's narrow single bed, almost without touching, he finally died. Luda, did you decide on us? She turned into the darkness, and even without seeing her face, he felt the weight of his answer. I thought a lot. Maybe we should start from scratch. As if we had just met us. No gross. No charges. I would love it, he whispered, and reached out in the dark, finding hers. Please. Ludmila did not withdraw her fingers. And in that silent gesture, there were more promises than in any oath. 5 years later. Ekaterina Borisovna's house was unrecognizable. New roof, painted facade, a garden that looked out of a picture. And in the yard, a playground with swing and sandbox. Daddy, look how I go loud. The 3-year-old's acute voice echoed as he shook on the tree Igor had adapted to it. On the porch, Ekaterina and Galina, the neighbor, discussed raspberry jam recipes as if it were a state issue. Not so tall, son, shouted Igor, approaching, but without conviction. Otherwise your mother will kill me. I won't, laughed Ludmila, leaving the house with a steaming tray. But beware, Mishenka. She placed the tray on the table and approached her husband, who took her son on her lap. Igor hugged them with his free arm, feeling the hot weight of those two bodies against his family. Do you know what you were thinking about? He asked low. What? How I almost lost all this. You. Our mothers. This life. Ludmila smiled and squeezed more at him. Don't think about it. This is left behind. Yes, he agreed, looking at the two women on the porch, to his son laughing in his arms, to the woman he had chosen again beside him. Now we only have a future. And he is beautiful.